Films that meet at the crossroad between the historical and drama genres have long been ones which have fascinated and intrigued me, and so within this presentation, I will be contrasting the representations of feminine beauty within Rob Marshall's Memoirs of a Geisha and Marshall Herskowitz's Dangerous Beauty. Throughout the trimester, we have studied various different genres, and I've come to understand that drama can be defined as depicting the way that characters deal with both internal and external types of conflict, where the historical genre provides a specific setting or context for those conflicts, as well as providing unique ones of its own. Set in the first half of the 20th century, Memoirs of a Geisha follows the conflicts faced by Chiyo, both in her struggle to become a geisha and in her understanding of self in a post-war world. As a geisha, Chiyo is the epitome of Eastern beauty, modest, graceful, and like a moving piece of art. The idea of beauty is a central theme within Marshall's film, explored through luxurious and traditional costuming, as well as through the use of specific lighting to emphasize the character's makeup and complement the colors of her kimono. Chiyo is constantly dressed in passive pastel colors, representing her gentle demeanor as the ideal of feminine beauty in the East. Using a cinematic convention often used in films starring women, Marshall utilizes makeover montages that highlight the effort and perfection associated with the geisha. Aligning this with Chiyo's essentially good nature allows the audience to understand that she represents an ideal and how a geisha should behave. This becomes even more obvious when Chiyo's character is placed in opposition to that of Hatsumomo, the genre-conventional villain of the film, whose sloppy appearance alludes to her sloppy morals. Hatsumomo often appears as sexualized and messy. Matched with her vindictive personality, this costuming choice represents a failure to obtain the high standard of the perfect Eastern beauty. Alongside the considered costuming choices of these two characters is Marshall's equally considered use of lighting. Generally, when Chiyo is on screen, the lighting is soft and warm, particularly around her face, to capture her eyes and facial features, which are often remarked on by other characters. Hatsumomo's lighting is much darker and moodier by comparison. These elements also play an integral role in Marshall Herskowitz's Dangerous Beauty, where the character of Veronica chooses to become a courtesan in 16th century Venice and must face the conflicting attitudes directed at her by society, as well as the inner turmoil as she fights the choice between freedom and the man she loves. Within this film, Venetian Renaissance ideals of feminine beauty are revealed to be very different from those of 20th century Japan. As a courtesan, Veronica's beauty is defined by her sexual freedom, but also by her embodiment of an ideal woman not presented to the men of Venice within their wives. Veronica's costuming is an obvious and overt example of this. Her boldly colored gowns are revealing, exposing her breasts and legs, and are accompanied by vast amounts of jewelry and relaxed hairstyles. On top of that, whenever Veronica is privately in the company of a man, she is dressed in sheer and flowing materials that cling to her body. This costuming is in direct opposition to the gowns worn by the wives of the Venetian nobility, who wear dark tones, little makeup, tightly formed hairstyles, and minimalistic jewelry which is often religious in theme. In one particular scene where Veronica and the wives meet, the comparison is particularly clear, with the famed courtesan being even more stunning against the dark-toned and sour-faced wives. Herskowitz's lighting choices also aid in perpetuating Veronica as the ideal sexual and romantic conquest for the men of Venice. During her peak of prominence as a courtesan, the lighting surrounding her is warm in tone and highlights her face and upper body. Even when she is not dressed in her best, the lighting is still bright and flattering so that the jump from natural to dangerous beauty is not too far. Despite differences in time period, setting, culture, and ethnicity of the major characters, the storylines of these two films are not dissimilar and tell of the struggle of women who have had the choice forced upon them to tread a path outside of traditional female life. As a result, both women find themselves subject to the conflict of what one wishes to be and what one's lifestyle demands. The choices in costuming, though reflecting different cultural values, illustrate an understanding of how color and design can be used to illustrate mood, personality, occupation, and morals. Where Chiyo's pale gray and blue kimono represents her modesty and the submissive nature of a geisha, Veronica's silver gown illustrates the riches and influence she has gained through her occupation. With costuming already setting the tone for these women, the lighting choices made by Marshall and Herskowitz serve to further highlight the way these women are placed as ideal versions of feminine beauty. As a benefit of considered lighting decisions, their physical features have been defined and the audience has been made to feel connection and warmth towards them throughout their individual character arcs. Use of verbal narration connects these two films as well, and whilst the technique is used in different ways, it serves to help the audience recognize immediately that these stories are set in the past and that they are being told to us after the fact. Chio's narration plays into a more linear story, where Veronica's expressive recollection of poetry alludes to the whimsical and overtly romantic nature of the film. Yet another aspect of similarity between these two historical dramas is the romantic storylines threaded through the both of them. Both Chio and Veronica face the struggle of being more free and independent than most women in their setting, and yet neither are free to love whom they choose. Somewhat predictably, both female characters are driven by their want of a man's attention, and both films end in a moment that suggests happily ever after. One cannot be blamed for enjoying this formulaic ending, however, especially in Dangerous Beauty, where the penultimate sequence of the film sees Veronica use her trial as a feminist forum to expose the hypocrisies of the period. Combining three genres and several very distinct similarities, Memoirs of a Geisha and Dangerous Beauty allude to the conventions of feminine beauty within different cultures and times. Presenting two lavishly costumed heroines set against vast time periods, these films also utilize lighting, romance, plot, and narration to push the story forward. The choices made by Marshall and Herskovitz allow the audience to be clearly directed in their reactions to Chio and Veronica, following along with their storylines and identifying with their internal and external conflict before wishing them all the best for their happily ever afters as the credits begin to roll.